Hello and welcome back to another how-to video. This time I'm going to discuss the barbell good morning. I will demonstrate the movement and go over the details of the lift and cues to look out for. I will also discuss how to work it into a training program. The setup for the good morning is the same as the barbell squat. The bar should be about shoulder height or slightly lower to allow you to get under it and place it securely on your traps. It is important to center yourself on the bar to allow for equal distribution of the weight. After the bar is set, take a few steps back and check your foot placement. Everyone's will be different, but a good starting point is with feet at shoulder width or slightly wider, with your toes pointed out by about 10 to 20 degrees. Keeping your feet at this width with your toes pointed out will give you a more secure base as you continue through the movement. Setup is extremely important for good mornings. We want to shift our hips back while maintaining a slight bend in the knee. The bend will vary though, depending on your torso and leg length. So as you can see in the video, my knees bend throughout the movement, but just slightly to allow me to get a good stretch in the hamstrings and glutes. If you have shorter legs, you may be able to maintain the same degree of knee bend throughout the movement, but for most, the bend will not be greater than more than about 20 degrees. The degree of bend in the knee is very important because if you bend them a little bit too far, you will start to engage quads and more of a squat-like motion. So always pay attention to what your knees are doing throughout the movement. One of the most overlooked but most crucial movements of the good morning is the anterior pelvic tilt that allows the upper back to maintain a neutral position and the lower back to remain neutral or have a slight arch. The arch in the lower back is perfectly fine. If you exaggerate the anterior pelvic tilt before you begin the movement, the arch will be more prominent. You can see in the video that I always make sure I tilt my pelvis before the beginning of every set, and I might even reset the tilt every few reps if I feel my form is slipping. I call the pelvic tilt overlooked because most trainers will tell their clients to keep the entire back neutral, and this may lead to a convex rounding of both the lower and upper back. When that happens, the chance of injury or strain increases because the client has a harder time pushing their hips back, which will force them to lift with their back rather than their glutes, hamstrings, and hips. This is very important to avoid if you want to use this movement properly and get the most out of the target musculature. If the movement is executed properly, the hips should push back well beyond the heels. This is true for all hip hinge movement patterns. If it is absent, then the movement needs to be adjusted. So I'd recommend just setting up your phone and take a quick video. That should tell you all you need to know. With most standing compound barbell movements, we tend to shift the weight back on our heels, which is true for the good morning as well. But you may notice throughout the video that my toes are coming up off the ground with all of my weight on my heels. This is not necessarily a bad thing. However, I would focus on trying to distribute the weight relatively evenly throughout the midfoot if you can still hold proper form and get full range of motion. Now, what does full range of motion for the good morning look like? Well, that will depend on your physiology just like everything else. I can get a great stretch in my hamstrings and glutes before my chest becomes parallel with the ground, so I will often stop at that point where I believe that stretch is sufficient. Some may have the ability to move to 90 degrees or even further. It depends on your flexibility, torso, and leg length. My advice is to start with a shorter stretch to gain confidence in the movement and to explore the area in which you find the best stretch with your hips pushed back and can complete the movement in an efficient manner. Lengthening the muscle is important in strength training, but if you stretch too much under load, you will lose a lot of force production, which can potentially hamper gains or increase chance of injury. Once you have the movement down, good morning should be added to a lower body pull day because of its great reliance on the hamstrings and glutes. I would be careful about how you incorporate this movement if you are also performing movements that are taxing on the lower back, such as deadlifts, bent rows, or back extensions. Although it should not place too much tension on the erectors of the lower back, you will still be engaging them to maintain posture, which may cause some fatigue that can be exacerbated by other movements that rely on the erectors more. This can make programming good mornings difficult. And that is the good morning. This is one of my top 5 all-time favorite exercises, right behind the stiff leg deadlift, of which I will be discussing in my next how-to video. I sincerely hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. I love discussing training, so I will be on the lookout. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I have plans for many more. I also offer customized programming and sports nutrition counseling. If that's something you're interested in, you can always follow me on Instagram and send me a DM there. Link will be in the description.